Welcome to my first episode of Coffee with Robbie, and of course, my Fire Me I Beg You mug. Thank you to my wife for making me this. What I want to do is, this week, I'm going to talk about 5 people that have made an impact on my life. And these 5 people have actually made me change my behavior. And as you know, that's really hard to do. And today, I want to talk about the first person, and actually the reason I'm doing this video in the first place is a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, Gary has always been on my radar. I've always seen him create new content and give talks. But in the past 3 weeks, he's really made a bigger impact on my life. And I said he's made me change my behavior. He's made me look at things much differently. And what I want to talk about today is his latest article that he's written, and it talks about exposure, why exposure equals leverage. Now, Gary does these things called the Daily V, and what the Daily V is, a camera follows him around every single day, and he's always giving advice and tactics on marketing your business or growing your business, and he's been doing this for a long time. Now, that's tiring. But people have asked him, why would you create these things? You're not selling anything. You don't have ads. What is the business model behind a Daily V show? And his answer, this article was genius, and I'm going to give you a small subset of it. One is, the first thing he mentioned is exposure equals leverage. So what does this leverage get me? A lot. Let's just take a look at the short-term results. I get paid more for public speaking. I sell more books. I get asked to do more TV spots. I end up like stuff on the 40 under 40 lists. I get more employees coming to VaynerMedia. I get more users coming to Wine Deals. I get to scale my point of view more efficiently to my existing employees. And finally, my mom gets to see me every day. Now, that's awesome. And let's take that exposure equals leverage, and let's apply that to real life. I'll give you 2 scenarios. First scenario is growing your career. So how does exposure help you grow your career? And number one, I've seen it firsthand. Being exposed, being written about, and people reading your stuff has a tremendous impact on your career and how people view you. And let's give an example. Let's just say that you're interviewing for a job, and there's another candidate who's exactly like you. Now, one candidate has a lot of great content, videos, articles, and uses a lot of the latest social media techniques to get the message out, and as a result has gotten some articles written about him or her. Now, the other person who is equally as qualified as that person has not done that, has not had any exposure. Doesn't mean necessarily that he or she is worse than the other employer or less talented. Is that there's just less exposure. And the question is, who gets hired? And for me, it's the person who has exposure. That has shown me a lot of things. One is that person has hustled to get those videos out. 2, that person has shown to not really care what other people think, and is not fearful of a lot of these things. And 3 is, I get to understand how that person thinks before I actually interview them. And that is a huge advantage. And now the other person doesn't have that advantage. And so the person who has exposure has leverage. And when it comes to salary negotiation, the person who is appropriately marketed himself or herself has the leverage to negotiate a higher salary. Because he knows he or she has this backing of getting media exposure. And that's not always easy, but because that person has been exposed, they have a higher leverage to get a higher pay. And I think that's key. 2, let's just say that you're a company, and I'll give you an example. Let's just say that you own a mechanic shop, okay? And you own multiple mechanic shops, you're a small business, and the question is, how do you get more customers? And if the problem is not many people know that you exist and you want to grow, you have a good customer base, but you think you can be growing more. The question is, well, how do I get more people? And the answer is exposure. the more that you're exposed, the more that people see you, the more that people say, well, that's the company that I want to, or that's the mechanic that I want to do business with. And it's not just doing like Facebook ads or Google ads or SEO. It's more than that. It's about becoming a teacher. And if you're a teacher, if you're a mechanic and you teach people how to, change their oil, if you teach people how to fix certain things on certain cars, when somebody has a problem with that, who are they going to come to? They're going to come to the person that they know can fix those things, and that company's used social media to their advantage, and they've gained exposure through those channels because they've done it consistently. They've become the teacher, which is really the lesson of all of this. If you're the teacher, you always win. If you are the teacher, people say that person knows what they're talking about. You always, always win. Too many people stand behind their resume or even their LinkedIn profile, and nobody knows what that person is all about. This is why I hate resumes, because they don't really explain anything about you. They really, really don't. That's why to succeed in marketing your company, to succeed in your career, you have to become the teacher. And I want to cap it off with something that Gary Vee said at the end of his article. Putting out content is always a good idea. Thank you, Gary Vee. You've changed my behavior. This is one of hopefully many. Thank you, and I hope everyone else has learned something from this.